Obviously, it was going to be more difficult to now get ITA. Even with 460, it was difficult. And then now that there are more people in the pool, they are not issuing ITAs, it was going to be more difficult. So we had to start thinking of alternatives.
Alone inside a crowd, 'cause I can't see you anywhere.
In April of 2020, it just occurred to me. Now, I think this was like the most impressive thing that I can say that I did on this journey. I just thought of it that, wait, another way of boosting your points is through French. Because we are thought of, okay, so there's also the provincial nomination option, which I will come to
We'll
in a
come to,
minute.
we'll share that.
But
I will share that.
no problem. We just thought of it that way to can boost our points through French. Now, anyone who knows me knows that I don't like French. I never studied French in secondary school. In fact, I used to say French is educated, you know, all of that now. So it wasn't like something that I was open to. But out of, no, I'm not going to say desperation. I'll say
Determination.
determination. Yes, out of determination, the two of us started
Learning
learning
French.
French.
We first
So
downloaded the app, the Duolingo app.
it was not even Duolingo we started with. We started with one other app. I can't remember the
that
name.
required us to start paying money.
Yeah,
Then we now
eventually
found out
we
about,
Duolingo, and then we got into it.
and we're serious about it too.
Now, so yeah, so eventually, I don't want to go beyond the timeline, but in April of 2020, started learning French.
Now, just about that April time, so that we are in the same on the same page on the timeline. Around that April time, coincidentally, I think that was we're just learning the French like for fun. We didn't even know what we wanted to do with it, but let us just learn the French. Around that time, my cousin,
No, I think it's not April.
when did he reach
It
out to
wasn't
me?
April. He reached out to you
Earlier.
in. Okay, yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah. It was
April.
April.
It was
Yes,
April
it was
because we're
actually April.
waiting
Yes, it
for
was
him to now
April.
become eligible to be my
Yes,
So
yes.
around that April, maybe some days or I don't know, around that time, my cousin just reached out to me, just called me on WhatsApp because we have our numbers and he probably sees my story.
The cousin that she has always been talking about.
Yes. Um and he just called me to say hi to me out of the blue. Like we talk normally, but not like every day, like once in a blue moon. So he just called me and he was like, "How is everything?" And suddenly he just said, "Ah, don't you want to relocate?" The thing was surprising to me. Like, is he is this an age?
And sorry, let me just say something. Okay,
He has actually been. I want to say what he wants to say because I'm
that's
excited
that's not
about
even
it.
the one I wanted to say, but
But let me say that one.
yeah,
Before this time, I think around early January,
after
early
we
of
entered the pool.
he heard about because I think he started joining groups.
Yeah,
So he heard about this PNP and he heard about Winnipeg, Manitoba. That you if you have somebody in Winnipeg or in Manitoba, they can be your sponsor, they can be your supporter. But we didn't have anybody at that point in time. We didn't know we had somebody. So he had a friend a schoolmate who relocated, but not in Winnipeg. He was just asking, do you know anybody in Winnipeg? He asked people around, like, because you don't have to just have a family member, even if you have a friend, somebody who knows you, somebody who can talk about,
that you
share
can
timeline of how connections with, that you have connections with. So me, I didn't even know about it like that. But I was just like, you're serious about this Winnipeg thing. He didn't mind. But if you don't know the person, there are some things that comes with it, and we're not willing to go through that route. So he even reached out to his mom, and his mom told him about another person, that a colleague of hers that is there. But when he reached out to him, he was like, he's not yet a permanent resident, so he will not be able to sponsor him. So we just did it, and we went ahead to go about to work on the French, to start learning the French. What did you want to say?
I think, what was I going to say? Oh, yes. So when the cousin reached out to her and asked her that, don't you want to relocate? Now, at that time, We wanted to keep our relocation plan under wraps.
On the
We're not going
wraps.
to share
Share
it
it with
with
anybody.
anybody. The only people that knew that we're planning towards relocating were our close family members, our siblings, my siblings, and our parents.
And
That's all.
that was all.
We didn't tell anyone else.
So let
So when he asked that question, she had to come to me to say, so that but that is asking that
and
don't
like I
you
had
want
to
to,
whisper around in that
what should I
conversation.
say? What because yeah, so
So let me continue. So when he asked me and I whispered, I didn't give him a definite answer. Like I was already like actively working on it. I just told him, yes, now I want to relocate. And he was like, that he can sponsor me, that I should just do the needful. He can sponsor me. Although he had not yet spent a whole year working in Canada. Like he had
he
almost
had not spent a year in
in
Canada
Canada,
as a
yes, he
permanent
had not yet
resident.
spent a year in Canada as a permanent resident. He told me by July it would be a year. So that, but I should still do all the things I needed to do. So we finished the call
Not knowing that we have
and
done everything.
we've done everything. We're just waiting for that boost. So he told us that we should do the needful and just go to their website, Winnipeg or Manitoba website, and apply. So we talked about it and we entered the pool, or we
No,
applied.
we couldn't apply
We couldn't
until
apply
yes,
until,
we
okay, so
had
we
to wait
couldn't,
for him
but
to.
we thought of it that that was what we were going to do, and I was just very excited, but I didn't really appreciate it that much at that point in time, because he told us that because of the pandemic and also some things happening in Winnipeg, like maybe the economy was not so strong, they had not been inviting people to apply for the provincial nomination program. So we just
So we're not really putting our hopes
our
on it.
hopes on it. Yeah, we're not putting our hopes on it. So continue with from when you applied and the
No,
French.
I think so. Again, in April, started learning French, but that option of provincial nomination now came up, and we're going to like, okay, let's just the provincial nomination just works similar to that of the federal express entry system. So you enter into a pool of applicants to the province, and then occasionally they do draws, and the best applicants get issued
Invited.
a letter of advice to apply LA. So in April, started learning French. As of July, it became really intense that I joined a French school. So I joined an online French school, and that continued. And then in July, when our cousin had already been in Canada for a year, I entered into the pool for Winnipeg provincial nomination, the MPMP. Um, and for a long time, obviously, this was in 2020, the pandemic was still on. So they were not issuing ITAs, there was nothing. So I was just learning French in the hope that eventually when they start issuing ITA, I'll be ready to write, because you also have to write like a French equivalent of
What's the
IELTS.
name?
It's TEF,
Tef.
test d'évaluation de français. So you have to write the exam, and then that boosts your points. You can get as up to 70 points from that, which added to my 460. My birthday was in July. So on my birthday, I lost 5 points. So my
Already.
score dropped to 455.
Explain that losing of 5 points. Why did you lose 5 points on your birthday?
Okay, so again, they are looking for younger generation. So the moment you clock 30, every birthday you lose 5 points. So that's why, and again, this is not to discourage anyone who is older, because the fact that you're not, your point, you may not be as competitive as younger people, no doubt, but then
Other
you
things can
also have
support you.
qualities that they are looking for. Provinces are looking for you. Do you understand? So if you enter the pool, you may get provincial nomination
Yes.
depending on your skill level. So the fact that you are not going to get points from the federal express entry, and one thing provincial nomination does, I did not want to mention this,
Don't
but I
mention it
think okay,
yet.
so so started with French, joined a French school, and I went, as in it was intensive, and that was about the time that you got pregnant.
When?
The,
2021. Have we reached 2021?
No, this was in 2020. You got pregnant
Oh, it's
2020
true.
now.
Yeah, I got pregnant.
You
I
got
gave birth
pregnant in
2021.
2021.
Okay.
So she got pregnant 2020. And despite that, And the pregnancy was, I'm not sure if you have not seen the video of her pregnancy story or pregnancy journey. I'm sure she has it somewhere on her channel here. So please
I
check
don't
that
have video of
out.
my pregnancy actually.
Oh, really?
It's for my birth that I did a video.
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't,
I
yeah.
thought you
I
still,
didn't
yeah,
have.
okay.
I was not feeling too well during my pregnancy,
Yeah,
especially that
so
first.
yeah, the first trimester and everything, but it didn't dissuade me. I was still serious with my French. I continued with it, and eventually in
You even went ahead to do physical. You joined the
yeah,
physical
yeah, yeah. So
class.
after the online,
It wasn't
because it
satisfied.
wasn't,
It wasn't as
you know,
intensive.
network problem. Sometimes I'm in class and I can't hear anything. The class goes off for like 40 minutes. We are having technical issues. I just decided that no, I can't do this. So I had to go and join like a physical class, and I continued with my French with the hope of writing my exam in February. As soon as, so the plan was the moment ILCC starts issuing invitations again, I'll go and write my French exam, which they started, I think, early 2021. I think they did some in December 2020. I'm not certain.
No, let
But
me let me help you with that. You wrote your exam before they started actually. You wrote your exam. It was the second one that you were waiting to write. So you wrote your exam when you now got your result and it wasn't the score that you wanted. You were now contemplating, should I write the second time
oh,
or just
yes.
wait?
Oh, okay.
So the thing about the French is, regardless of whether it is PNP or not, if you had gotten the scores that you're supposed to get a particular score that would give you the extra mark that you need to boost your point to be very high. If you don't get a particular score, they will just give you the mark that you got. So he wrote his exam, hoping that okay, I'm on 450 something because he had already lost 5 marks. So if I do this, I'm going to get how much? What was the score? Well, you needed to get
I was hoping to get 70, the maximum.
70. Yes, that is
But
a
even
B
if I
something.
even I needed to get B2,
B2.
IB2 all
Yes,
through.
all true. So if he had that high B2, they will give him an extra how many mark?
That would have given me 62 marks.
Extra 62 marks
Yes,
to the
12
450.
points.
So that would boost him and would kind of make him have a
So
standing
62
chance.
plus 455 would have been over 500.
And
So that was a
that the next,
sure,
you understand. So
sure ITA.
that was the plan. So the moment he did his exams, as in with all the struggle, he was still working. I was pregnant and everything. When he did the exam and he had a C
No,
something,
I had B2, two B2s and two C1, but unfortunately the B2s were not
high
IB2.
B2s.
So let's not, I'm not sure anybody, for those who understand, for those who wrote TEF or who are in the process of writing TEF, I'm sure you understand what I'm
Understand?
talking
So
about.
when he did the exam and he now did not get what he wanted, he was already really, you were really practicing because he had some
No, I was,
French
I'm sure,
friends. He had
If
somebody
you
that
are
he
watching,
practices. He had someone that he does the practice with, so he was ready to do it again.
yeah,
But later on, he just thought of it that let me hold on till when they
actually start
start
issuing.
issuing because they didn't issue until when I think
I can't remember.
ending.
I can't
They
even
didn't issue
remember.
until
I can't remember. They just
20.
started issuing to PNP. So initially it was just CEC. Then later it was PNP and CEC. So at that time it was just PNP. So I was not, even though I had
Until
written the
July. I
exam,
think it was on
I can't remember
July
exactly when.
2020.
At that time it was no longer our business because we'll get to that.
Okay.
But I just decided, you know what, let me wait. And since they were issuing to PNP, so this was another story. So don't forget that I had already joined the poll,
For
the for
Manitoba.
Manitoba. I'm a lawyer. Our PNP options are limited, very limited,
They're not looking for
because
lawyers.
they are not really looking. So if you are going to apply as a lawyer, you might need to tweak your job description. So in April of 2021 slash May, I now started talking to other people who are also lawyers, say, how do we go about this thing? Since they're only issuing invitation to PNP applicants, how do we get PNP? And then somebody suggested Saskatchewan, that, oh, Saskatchewan issues PNP to lawyers, but you just don't go under the pathway of law. So your NOC is going to be a different NOC. You can choose something related to law, but not necessarily that of a lawyer. So that was what I did. That, I'll tell you how that affected me in the future. But I changed my pathway from lawyer to legal assistant and then applied to Saskatchewan for their PNP. I was still in the Manitoba pool, so I altered my job description on IRCC website. I went to Manitoba website, altered my job description to a legal assistant, and then also on Saskatchewan website. This was in April of 2021. That was after my TEF results came out, and I realized that I was not going to get the points I was hoping for. So I was like, instead of waiting to, while I was going to continue preparing for the French exam to write at a future date, let me just make sure that I give myself those options. And then, yeah, no. So take it away. What happened in the June of 2021?
So after all that happened, have I given birth to Sekina another time?
Yeah, yeah, you gave birth on
I gave
the
birth to Sekina
in May
May
2021.
1st, 2021. I hope we are trying with this timeline. Oh, please help. Please forgive us in case it's not looking as perfect, but we're trying. So around so from like ending of May to June, my cousin had been reaching out to me from time to time, like, Ayinka, how far? Like, tell your husband to check. It's like they are issuing LA to people. I will tell him, he'll be like, no, it's not the general LA, that's Manitoba. It's not the general one. Like, it's about the NOC, it's about, you said there's one word you keep using,
Strategic.
strategic. They are looking for specific people. So he will just be like, but you will check, you will not see anything. So there was this very night I can never forget, because this is the turning
Do you know
point
the
in
date?
our night. I don't know the exact date.
Do you want me to
June
tell?
20?
Nope.
June what?
28th of June.
Eh?
28th of June
Oh, 20
2021.
28th of June. That very night, my cousin sent a message. I think, yeah, he sent a message and it was like, Yinka, you guys check your email. I have somebody who also applied, like the person is also a lawyer. This one, there's nothing special about what the person has to, and the person has gotten LAA. Check your message. I told my husband, he was lying there. I think he was sleeping. I woke him up. He was like, no, he was reluctant because he did not believe that there. I said, check. And the thing is, my husband had already lost hope about Winnipeg. He was not even really interested in Winnipeg. When we were doing all this research, we wanted the general one because we're now like in love with Calgary, we're in love with Alberta. He just thought of this Saskatchewan recently, and that was what he was focusing on for the PNP. He did not even think of Manitoba at all. So I think that kind of just said, he said we should check our spam message. I told this man, check your spam. He was like, no, it's not my spam. So my cousin was like, okay, no problem, but we should just be checking. So when we finished I finished the conversation with my cousin. I told him, maybe just check the spam. If it's not there, it's not there. If it's there, he did not check. He just checked it stylishly after we talked about it. And he was like, Yinka. He was like, Yinka, we got the message, we got an email. Ah, I was like, you see, I said you should check. Just imagine, and this thing is time bound. It has an expiring date. If we did not check it, that's how it will have gone. So I think that was like a very, very huge turning point for us, because all the French and everything, although the French you did
Yeah, it
boosted
was.
your mark,
So
boosted your
again,
points.
another thing I did was, even though after I applied to Saskatchewan and I changed my NOC from 4 to, I can't remember the NOC now, to 1242. That's legal assistant. I made sure that I effected the change
On
across board.
yes.
So everywhere, ILCC, Manitoba, I made sure. And then when I got my French exam, my results as well,
You
even
also
though it was not the score I was hoping for, and it
you
wasn't
still
going
got
to
some
really
points,
impact my points that much, I still
added it.
updated the results. So my Manitoba this thing and everything, I added my French results,
So
which helped
helped. It
because
helped.
by the time they were now issuing LAA in June, on the 28th of June, my results, because of the French and then the other factors that were being considered, we got LAA on the 28th of June
We're so
2021.
happy. Like
So
Even though our journey just started, though, but
And
we were so
this was
happy.
us who, in as early as January, February of 2020, we're looking for anyone that we knew in Winnipeg, in
I didn't
Manitoba.
know my
We're
cousin was.
asking. I can't even, to be honest, I can't tell you how many people I called. I reached out to my boss who was in Calgary to find out if he knows anyone in Winnipeg,
Winnipeg,
in Manitoba, who was
Manitoba.
willing to support us. That's just how bad. And then see how God just did
Like,
it. So
without even stressing.
um June of 2021, we got LA. We immediately did everything we were supposed to do, printed our
We're
statement,
prepared.
printed,
We're
we
ready.
already had money in our account. It has been there since January. No, it's been there since January of 2021. I can't remember exactly when we put it. So, but we had money in
In
our
our account.
accounts. The money that was there already. It was an account that we dedicated for the relocation process. So we're not touching that money at all. And then once we got LA in July of 2021, we submitted our application.
Sorry about the money in our account. We didn't just put a huge chunk of money like that. Too. We're already
No, the
building
money
it.
were, of course.
We're already building it
Have you forgotten
gradually
in
because it's very
2020 where I mean in 2019 where we started the process, we didn't have
have
any money
anything.
in
So
our
we're
account
already
now.
building it
So
gradually because it's very
we're
important
building it
not to
gradually.
just put a huge chunk of money, except if it's like a deed of gift.
No, if you have your huge chunk of money, it's not about putting a huge chunk of money.
Uh,
It's about the money being in the account for six
for
months.
6 months.
So if at the
You
time
know,
you are
they used
putting,
to question it
if the money
sometimes.
is in the account for 6 months, you're only submitting your statement of account for 6 months period. So if
Okay.
your money is going to be there for 6 months, which was what happened with us. So even though the money was built over a period of time, the statement of account we submitted was for the period of six
Okay.
months.
So it is within that 6 months that you should not just put
Put a
a
huge
huge
chunk of
chunk
money,
of the
because then
money.
that raises a red
Raises an
flag.
okay.
In
So
July, we submitted our application to MPMP, and by August 20, was it August 27 of 2021, we got our provincial nomination.
nomination.
Now, this provincial nomination that we have been clamoring,
Clamoring. What does
eh,
it do? What's the
what it does is
benefits?
that it adds 600 points
Like whooping.
to your score. 600 points. So even if your village people are following you,
Even if you have zero.
if you have zero, with that 600 points, as in, I don't, any draw that they do, the score
Sorry about this, my madam.
just, so any draw that they do, the score is always, I think the highest I've seen is like 517 or so. So regardless, with your 600
You
points,
get
you will
invited.
get. So which is the reason why I said, even if you're an older person, don't be discouraged, because you can get provincial nomination,
That one is
and
very
with
possible.
600 points, you'll be in Canada in no time. So
Yeah.
don't be discouraged by, okay, because if I by the time I enter the pool, my score will not be high. Provinces are still looking for skilled workers,
Workers.
and unlike ILCC, most provinces don't discriminate based on age
Age.
as much as ILCC. In fact, I think with MPMP, your score, whether you are 45 or you're 20 something, remains the same.
But do they still have a limit? Can you be
I
50
think
and apply?
I think this limit is 45.
45.
I'm not certain though.
So the earlier the better
Yes,
before
yeah.
you pass
So
that 45.
exactly.
If you are still in your early 40s, there's still hope
There's still hope, exactly. I'm sure you see lots of videos on YouTube that would guide you as
and
to
help you.
how to apply for all these provincial nominations, because each province has its own
Unique.
specific
Yeah.
application process.
Yeah.
So, anyways, August, we got our provincial nomination, 600 points added to our score. Our score was now 1051, and the next ITA draw, that was on the 1st of September 2021, we got our ITA, our invitation to apply to
Canada.
Canada. So, of course, because we're already ready now,
We're prepared.
we most of the documents that were required were the same documents that um, MPNP needed us to submit. So we
Submit
had most of the thing. In fact, the only thing there were two things that delayed us.
passport.
One, our daughter's passports. So with MPNP, we didn't need to submit our passports. We just needed to upload our birth certificate.
Certificate.
And the second one was the police reports. Now, if we had been more proactive, we could have gotten those things before we got ITA, but doesn't matter. We got ITA. We started. We
Applying
applied
for
for police reports. We also applied for our
our
passport,
passport.
and I think on the 20th of September we got
Everything
everything
that we
and we
needed.
put in our application. Now, this after we submitted our application, hey, if you are not a patient person, IRCC will teach you patience.
But wait, so after we submitted, wait, before that patience aspect, after we submitted our application, it was looking fast initially
Hey, it was looking fast.
because we
So
did our biometrics
we did our biometrics. We got our letter to. So
and we're already planning.
at the time we were submitting our application, the requirement to submit your medical reports along to submit your medicals along with your application was no longer there. So you could submit your medicals at a future date. In fact, IRCC will send you a request to go and do your medicals. So when we submitted our application on the 1st of September, we didn't do our medicals. But when we saw that things were picking up, people were getting PPR within a short period of time. So on the 18th of November, we went to go and do our medicals. And then first 23rd of December, we got our biometrics request letter.
Request letter.
So it was like everything is moving
We
fast.
had already started planning.
In fact, we're already thinking, okay, when are we going to travel? Should we travel before our daughter turns 1? Me, I was like, no, I want her to celebrate her first birthday in Nigeria. I was like, no, and if we get our PPR, what are we still doing?
What
Let
are we
us
still
go.
waiting?
Why
Are
are
we
we
still
still
waiting
waiting?
now?
And then we now started this cat and mouse game with IRCC. Yeah.
The weight of the century, the weight
From
of a lifetime.
23rd of December. So again, if you're someone who has been in this process, you know what they call PPR. What's it called? AOR groups. AOR is your acknowledgement of receipts. That is the day you submitted your
Application.
application. So you'll be in a group with people who submitted around the same time, and because of that, you will start. You would know when those who submitted around the same time as you, when they have gotten PPR, or if they've gotten ghost updates or anything that shows that
Anything.
there's progress on your application. So by March of 2022, those who submitted around the same time as we did, that is September, October, they started getting PPR. So we're very hopeful that yes, we'll soon get PPR, and we had started making travel plans. Okay,
Like
when
you
do
even
we?
had a friend self that you've been on this journey with, Aisha,
Yes, yes, yes. Well, she submitted way
way
earlier
before.
than we did.
So
So
she's among the backlog.
yes,
But we're hopeful when she got that
no,
at
we're
least we
hopeful
will
now.
get
IRCC
like
has
maybe 2
started.
months at
IRCC
most.
has started working. By latest April, we're going to get our PPR, and then nothing. I applied for GCMS notes. I didn't get any response.
You applied the first
I
time.
applied in March.
The
There
first
was
time
no
you applied
response.
through an agent.
I used one of those websites where you can pay $12 and they'll help you apply. No response. When I waited again in April, after a month and more than a month or so, and there wasn't any
You
response,
know how to reach
my
out to
friend
Aisha.
helped me to apply. She had just become a permanent resident. Still nothing.
No response whatsoever. You didn't talk about how you used to call them.
I can't remember how many times. And the process of calling IRCC,
It's not biz. You
eh,
have to be able, you have to be smart and be up to date because you have an app,
I can I can go and open a YouTube channel because of this IRCC pattern.
because there's this
So,
application that you had to download and you put in some money,
and
then that application gives you a
you'll be able
Canadian
to
number,
call, yeah, you
and
get a Canadian
you
number.
have to be strategic in this calling. It's not that you just call and do green, 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 and they will pick. No,
No, it doesn't work
you
that
have
way.
to be strategic. Like that
It
one is
doesn't
special
work that way at
strategy.
all. So, anyways,
And
started calling.
every time you call them, they will
They'll
tell
just say they
you
are working on my file.
progress, in
Application in
progress,
progress.
in
Application
progress.
in progress.
And it wasn't like that before. Initially, when we were still ginger, it told us can you come past. Can you eligibility this
So
part
basically, everything had been passed except eligibility.
eligibility. And that was where they
And
kept on saying
eligibility is like the
in
most important
progress,
thing.
in
In
progress,
progress.
in
In
progress for
progress.
months. So it was around that time he now said, let me apply for GCMS notes. And he applied two different times, no response.
Nothing. Nothing.
That waiting was no
So
joke.
eventually, I now thought of it that what could be the issue? Then it occurred to me that could it be because I changed my NOC from lawyer
Law.
to legal admin and legal assistant? And I just thought of it. Though it wasn't the only step I took, I actually reached out to some MPs
My
in.
cousin first helped. He reached out to two,
Yes, I reached out to MPs and then
but they didn't reply.
there was no
Then
response.
you
I
now
reached
reached
out to
out
them
to a
myself.
number of
I
them.
got a response from one who told me to sign a consent letter and he was going to reach out to IRCC on my behalf. But I was not going to wait for him to just do that. I was like proactive. I just thought of it that, you know what, let me send another reference letter to these guys stating that yes, even though I changed my NOC, the functions and the roles are not similar. Of course, a lawyer's role is not similar to that of a legal assistant. But with the way the legal practice in Nigeria works,
You still do
lawyers
some of
you wear all the hats.
yeah.
You can be a lawyer, you are your own paralegal, your own legal assistant, you are your own legal clerk, you are everything in
Yes.
your law firm. So I now did like an updated reference letter. And that updated reference letter was sent on the 8th of August. And by the 22nd of August, I'm sure you guys have seen that video where I called my wife. You know, the mail came in and I was like, I knew what it was, but as in, it felt surreal.
It
Like,
felt surreal. It felt I
uh,
cried. Did I cry? I think I cried. I jumped, I screamed.
so
I was so excited.
we
I
got
was
our PPR passport request. You guys have seen the rest of the
the
journey
rest of
from
the
that point.
journey.
We submitted our passports. It got stamped. Then
Within like 3 weeks,
yeah,
we
it
got
took
it
less
back.
than 4 weeks. We sent it to Accra.
And we
At the
got
time, a lot of people some people were avoiding Accra, but
at that point in time Accra was hot cake, like they
yeah,
were fast and UK was not the slower one.
yeah.
So we avoided UK and it really helped us. So like if you want to talk about the spending, like the big spending, how much do you think we would say we spent?
Oh boy, for our application, the three of us, that's IRCCO, it was $3,050. Sorry, sometimes I still say pounds. I
Pounds.
don't understand.
He's so
After how
used to
many
I
years? I don't understand. Yeah, I've left the UK a long time ago, but I don't know why I still say pounds.
don't.
Anyways, so we spent that's $3,050 for our Canadian dollars, by the way. For our medicals, I think that was 127,500
For the three of
for the
us.
three of us. For West was I think $220 per person. No, was it 220 or $280? I think it was 220. But the exchange rate at the time
Was
was
not that
280.
high.
Now exchange rate is over 500. This was in 2019. No, exchange rate was 280. So for
Nigeria.
those who are asking, why are you leaving? Why are you leaving? This is one of the reasons. Because how can I pay for something in 2018 at 280? Even as at the time I paid for MPMP was $500. The exchange rate was 450. This was in 2021. 450. Canadian dollar to a naira was about 450. And less than a year after, it's over 550 as we
550.
speak.
Hmm.
Over 550. I'm not sorry. I'm pro Nigeria. I love Nigeria so much. And I know
But
that eventually I still have a lot of things to do in Nigeria. But it's
it is
really,
what
really
it is.
sad. It's really, really sad.
It is what it is.
So Basically, I think that's it. So the
about the spending.
timeline, yeah. What else did we spend on? Okay, I else I think I already said that one. I
That
think that one
one.
was about 78, maybe 78,000. Yes, 78,000, and then for the two of us, 78,000 each. What else? Passports for the three of us. What else did we spend money on? Again, I've said about MPMP. That was five hundred
500.
dollars. At $450 to at 450 naira to a dollar. Um, and then the flights,
The
the
flights,
flights,
yeah, yeah.
and then what we needed to have in our accounts. We just to be on the safe side, though, what we needed to have in our accounts was within the range of 6.5 to 7 million. We actually had over 8 million in the
Account
account
just in
just
case,
because of this
the
fluctuation.
fluctuation in the exchange rate, so that we don't have to feel like the
Now,
heat.
one advice that people give, and trust me, this is actually a very valid advice, is that if you can afford it, if it's possible, try and save your money in forex, in dollars, because the fluctuation of naira
It's
is
no
nothing
joke.
to be.
It's no joke.
Yeah,
It's no
exactly.
joke.
So if you can,
Mama,
please save your money in dollars. If not, save it in naira and then try and be gathering your forex as much as you
as
can
you can.
before you eventually travel.
Yes.
So
So another thing I would like to say is what this whole process taught us is patience. Like it really taught us patience, because while we were waiting, there are a lot of things we needed to use our money to do, a lot of things that we needed to fix, a lot of, like, our inverter got bad. So many things
inverter,
got
my
really
the
bad.
car, you guys, I'm sure you've seen the state of that car.
Like
It
even
was the car was
it was,
it was okay, it was working, no,
but it
but
was, we were really tempted to buy a new car, but we had to just say no, we'll wait.
before you guys use POF to buy car,
We'll
and then
wait.
IRCC will now send you ITA.
So
So
we just had to wait and wait, and we're praying to God. Sometimes I'll wake up in the morning, I'll be like, baby, like,
eh,
why? Why off? Because some people that actually applied after you see them relocating, you see them saying they've gotten their PNP, I mean their PPR, and you're like, what's wrong now? These are IRCC people, did we offend you? Did we offend
you know the
you?
funny thing is, eventually the GCMS notes, the two GCMS notes we applied for,
Came
we
when
had
we
gotten to
got here.
Canada here, and then we now got the GCMS. And to be
It was what he
I
said.
actually saw that from the GCMS note, it was because I changed my
That
NOC.
was what
That was
affected.
what flagged
It's
my.
just that they will not attend to it until they are ready.
They didn't even send me a message. There was
They will
no,
not.
there
They
was
take
nothing.
their time.
My file was on what's it called now? There's this thing that review required RR, and when your file gets review required, see, it takes the blessing of God for it to be resolved. I don't know why they do that. Once your file is placed on review required, it's like they just leave it to one side, and whenever they are ready, they will come back to
They'll
it.
come back.
So you have to be proactive. You can't just submit and go and
And just
sleep.
relax. So
No.
I'll be waiting for them,
Nah.
because see, they can take for
Yeah.
they take their time.
Yeah.
Once they've left your application, like especially
They
when it
have
has
moved
an
on.
issue, they've put a pin on it, and
They have
God
moved
knows when
on.
they will remove that pin. So
So
we just, he had to be proactive, and we prayed and we were hopeful, and our patience was not in vain. And I think at the end of the day, we're grateful to be here. I hope we really tried though. We tried our best, even though it's not easy trying to keep mama occupied, and she's already cranky. We tried our best. I hope we tried to, like, give you a timeline, give you, share our stories. I hope you learned something from it. I hope it was interesting. Um, we probably might have not touched every single thing, but we tried to touch as much, share our story as we could remember. So if you have any questions, please feel free to always send me a DM on Instagram. You can write it in your comment section, but it's better to send me a DM on Instagram. My link is always in my description box below, so that I can always answer your question. And the next sit down video will be probably how we got our apartment. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And don't forget to turn up your post notification bell, so that you'll be updated whenever I upload new video. Till next time, take care of yourself. Bye bye.